Under the blue whale at the Museum of Natural History.
This is not your typical state of the city.
The Blueprint to Save Our City was the title of the mayor's hour and 15-minute State of the City address, made in the middle of the 1,000-person audience.
How many of you fear that this generation of your family might be the last generation to be able to afford to live in New York City?
Thus began a multimedia presentation on how to make the city accessible to all, from kids in schools.
Our young people do not need to be policed, they need to be reached.
He said the city will expand community centers, waive the $25 yearly fee. He also said he intends to have schools exceed the national graduation rate of 86%. It's now 76%. He also focused on small businesses.
Country did backflips to save big banks. Why don't we do everything we can do to save small businesses?
He proposed a tax on landlords who leave commercial properties vacant for lengthy periods of time, and a commission that will seek to have rent control for commercial properties. And speaking of rent, de Blasio declared that half of new city-financed homes will be reserved for people making less than $50,000 a year. And get this, he said that security deposits, as we know them on rentals, will end.
You can pay in installments.
That would take state approval. It's among many ways in which the mayor's proposals are just that and are not law.
So now the council is going to go in and look at the details around each one of these proposals.
It's almost like he's saying, save our city from himself. And I do think he needs to have less rhetoric, more specific answers to these questions.
Crime tape surrounds the deli grocery at the intersection of White Plains Road and East 216th Street as police investigate a fatal shooting that killed a 20-year-old employee. Police say around 11:30 Tuesday morning, the clerk was behind the deli counter when he was shot. Police say the suspects, an 18-year-old man and a 25-year-old woman, were quickly taken into custody. The victim died at the hospital.
The best man. It's my friend.
Mama Albari and the victim were friends. He says he moved to America 3 years ago. Albari and his friend at the scene say the shooting could have happened out of revenge because they say the victim tried to kick the suspects out of the store.
This happens all the time. I have a store down the block. I've been there like for 13 years. And I know that store, I know the owner for that store, the same thing for 13 years.
This is the second Bronx deli shooting in less than a week involving clerks who've moved from Yemen to New York. On Saturday, a deli clerk was shot inside the Mott Haven store where he was working. According to the Yemeni American Merchants Association, it's unclear if the two shootings are connected.
It's scary. There's a lot of things going on in the neighborhood. It's like literally time to just get away. It's just a lot of violence.
Residents who shopped at the Williamsbridge Deli know the slain employee, who they'll remember as a genuine man.
He's very kind-hearted, something that nobody deserves, especially him. You know, they come to work for us. You understand? They come to work for the community.
I'm always coming in there and he'll like smile, crack a joke. Now it's just going to be like, okay, I'm going to go in here and get a sandwich and everybody's going to be somber.
For a third day in a row in Brooklyn, hundreds gathered to protest police brutality following the killing of George Floyd. At the Barclays Center, the protesters started to arrive a little after 1.
It was just reminiscing a lot of things that's just been happening to black men across the United States over so many years. I just think the good news is that we have cell phones now where you can have proof.
Patricia Brown has lived in Brooklyn her entire life. Following this weekend's violent clashes with police, she's pleading with the community for calm.
We will get nowhere by violence. It has to be love. You know, love is what conquers all.
Chef Yaya is also a longtime Brooklyn resident with 2 sons. He too is calling for calm.
What happened to Floyd was just not acceptable. I mean, you can protest, but the violence and the looting, I'm against that one.
But some protesters argue the physical damages don't compare to the human lives lost at the hands of police officers.
If it's the way that we need to take action for us to be heard, if it takes looting and like violence and towards specifically the police, I don't think I have any particular issue with it.
There is no amount of property that equals the value of a single human life. every store in that place could get looted. Wouldn't equal the value of George Floyd's life or anyone else.
Carlos Calzadilla Palacio is an organizer. He says this is him, along with a friend, being pushed while protesting in Brooklyn over the weekend. Moments after, he claims he was hit by police with a baton, causing head and knee injuries.
When I touch my head and I look, my hand is just dripping. The story should not be a big business being, windows being broken. The story is the violence the police is committing against protesters.
There are contrasting sights and sounds. The latest in 4 days of protests in New York City, and today's reaction to some of the protests' aftermath. Dozens and dozens of businesses boarded up today in an effort to try and protect their businesses.
What we saw was a market shift about probably 8:30, 9 p.m. As many protesters were leaving for the day, we started to see some criminal activity.
That's why late this afternoon, Governor Andrew Cuomo issued this order imposing a curfew starting at 11 o'clock tonight till 5 a.m. Tuesday. The violence, apparently by a very few people intent on destruction, is being condemned by everyone, says the commissioner.
I saw increased, again, numbers last night of New Yorkers, of every faith, of every religion, of every ethnicity, speaking out against it. But it's a groundswell that's going to really end this terrible situation that we're in the middle of now.
The commissioner said that today, while some other officials were criticizing him and his department.
We reject those officers who are violent and abusive.
Fire Officer Vincent J. DeAndrea.
2 local members of Congress responded to this incident from Friday, in which an officer identified on social media as Vincent DeAndrea was seen pushing demonstrator Daunya Zayer to the ground. She has said she sustained a concussion and other injuries that put her in the hospital. But a group of elected officials today said the oppression of people of color is the broader issue, and it's why they strongly support protesters like this group in Times Square today. The leaders also said the looting is criminal, but too much attention to it gives outsiders unneeded attention.
Who's doing it? And why are you talking to us about it?
The small group of people carrying out crimes are apparently the reason for the curfew order.
Who's air? Who's air?
They marched down Broadway to Times Square, marking the beginning of Climate Week. Since 2009, climate activists have held rallies over climate change during the same week as the UN's General Assembly to pressure world leaders to take action. While this year's General Assembly is taking place remotely due to the pandemic, activists still organized a climate and racial justice march. Hundreds participated.
It appears that there's a force that's happening that if we don't do something to negate it, we're ending life as we know it.
The people, united, will never be defeated.
The march began in Columbus Circle and ended in Times Square. It's happening as wildfires are ravaging the West Coast and at a time the country has seen a record-breaking storm season.
It's pretty strong evidence that climate is suffering and that we need to change the way that we treat the earth.
Once the earth is damaged, you can't replace it.
Climate! Climate!
Absar Alam, up until recently, lived in California, where he says he saw the danger of wildfires hitting close to home.
It's exacerbated by humans and the human condition. So we do things to our environment and our nature that contributes to irreversible change in the earth that we need to take action for against now.
Oceans are under attack.
Many of those who took part in the rally also stood in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement.
We care about what's going on in the world, the inequities, the hatred in particular.
People have the power to change things. The government has the power to make those changes.
George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd!
The event was arranged to honor George Floyd, and honor him they did. And the thousands gathered also honored the dozens of people of color killed in police custody as well.
All the men and women who have been brutalized, murdered, haven't had their voices heard. I felt I needed to be here just to show support.
Good afternoon. Would like a mask?
Early in the afternoon, Mayor Bill de Blasio changed his public schedule to come to the event. When he took to the podium, noticed that the people at the front of the crowd have their backs toward him. Others booed him, but he kept on.
It will not be about words in this city. It will be about change. Change in the NYPD. It will be about change that you can see and believe, because you will see it with your own eyes. That's what we must make.
And surprisingly, the city's public advocate, Jumaane Williams, insulted the mayor.
We have the wrong president, we have the wrong governor, and we have the wrong mayor for these times.
The public advocate and the mayor are from this borough, and the keynote speaker,
from Brooklyn.
Terrence Floyd, the brother of the man whose death ignited protests nationwide, had a message of reconciliation and nonviolence.
I'm proud of the protests, but I'm not proud of the destruction. My brother wasn't about that.
From members of Congress to the borough president and the state attorney general.
These changes are not taking place because all of a sudden America has a conscience. All of a sudden they are seeing on the cameras every day what has been happening for far so long in this community.
No justice!
No peace!
All of the young people out there, you all know that every change in this country has started with young people, not politicians, but young people. Every movement, every struggle, it's young people standing up for democracy and freedom.
Many people spoke to the thousands of people listening.
The people at bottom are demanding change from the top, and the only way to do it is to get out here and let them see us.
It's beautiful seeing all these people come out to bring awareness to a really, really important cause. We're tired. This has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, it's about time.